It happens again. You're face to face with someone you've already met 2, 3, maybe 4 separate times, and their name has just vanished. Not lingering somewhere just out of reach, not on the tip of your tongue. Gone. As if it was never stored to begin with. And honestly, the forgetting itself isn't even the rough part. The rough part is the awkward little performance that follows. The next 10 seconds where you're subtly repositioning yourself, praying someone else says the name out loud first, or your phone buzzes, or literally anything happens to bail you out. Everyone's lived this moment. But here's the thing, people who forget names over and over as a pattern aren't careless. They're not rude, and they're almost never as dim as they secretly worry they are. There's a real, specific mechanism behind it. And once you see how it works, the guilt mostly evaporates. Start with the moment of meeting someone new. Your brain is running multiple processes at once, scanning facial expressions, picking up vocal tone, sorting out the social context, gauging whether you like this person and whether they like you, all while half-planning your next sentence. Your working memory, that short-term mental scratch pad sitting in your prefrontal cortex, is already holding 5 or 6 things in the air. And right into that overloaded moment, someone drops a single meaningless sound on you. Their name. Hey, I'm Kevin. Kevin. Sure. But Kevin attaches to nothing. No memory, no image, no emotional hook, no prior concept. It just lands there, unclaimed, in a brain that's far too occupied to look after it. There's actual research explaining this. Back in 1987, psychologists McWeeny and Ellis ran a now well-known experiment sometimes called the Baker-Baker paradox. They showed people a photo and told one group the man's job was Baker. They told a second group his last name was Baker. Same exact word. Days afterward, the job group recalled it far more reliably than the surname group. Why? Because Baker, the profession, plugs into a whole network in your head. Bread, dough, early mornings, a particular smell. Baker, the surname, connects to absolutely nothing. It just floats. Names carry no built-in meaning, and your brain, which is nothing if not efficient, naturally clings to whatever does carry meaning, and lets the rest slide. Think back to the last funeral you went to. You probably still remember the smell of the flowers, the strange quality of silence in the room, who broke down crying hardest, some offhand sentence someone said that hit you harder than expected. What you almost certainly don't remember is what was printed on the program. Your brain made that call without asking you. It decided the printed words weren't the part worth keeping. They never are. Names are the program. Everything else about a person is the funeral itself. Now for the part that stings a little more, because it's closer to home for a lot of people. A large chunk of habitual name forgetters are people who are deeply in their own heads during social situations. Not out of arrogance, but out of anxiety. While the other person is saying their name, this person is running an internal commentary. Am I making too little eye contact? Was that handshake weird? Did I just talk over them? The name slips in for a second and then gets steamrolled by that inner monologue. This is a documented effect. Psychologist Malcolm Brenner identified something called the next-in-line effect. Back in 1973, people waiting their turn to speak in a group remember strikingly little of what the person right before them said, because mentally they'd already checked out, rehearsing their own upcoming lines. They're self-editing in real time. People with social anxiety, or even just a restless self-consciousness, live in that mode almost constantly. Never fully present, always one step ahead into what's coming. So the instant a name gets handed to them, part of their attention is already somewhere else. If this sounds like you, it's not a memory issue, it's a focus issue. Two very different problems. It's also worth acknowledging the other side of this. The people whose names keep slipping away. Because the sting of that is real, and pretending otherwise wouldn't be fair. Getting your name forgotten, especially more than once, can feel like a small, specific verdict. You didn't leave enough of a mark to be remembered. That's the emotional read, even when it's completely inaccurate, and brains aren't always logical about these things. Meanwhile, the person who forgot the name was probably replaying the rest of the conversation afterward. What you said about your brother, the particular way you laughed, some unusual opinion you mentioned that stuck with them. They were genuinely present, just not for the name part. And this gets at something most people misunderstand about memory in general. It isn't a recording device. Your brain doesn't archive experiences the way a hard drive saves files. It keeps impressions, emotional charge, patterns, fragments, and it's brutally selective about it. Strong feeling? Kept. Something unexpected? Kept. Tied to something you already understand? Kept. One random syllable, delivered while you're busy trying not to look awkward in front of a stranger? Not so lucky. People who chronically forget names tend to share a trait. They think in associations. Their memory leans heavily on context, stories, emotional tone, the look on a face during a meaningful moment. Ask them what someone wore to a party 3 years back, and they might nail it. Ask them that same person's name, and you'll get a blank stare. Their brain was busy logging everything except the label. That's not a defect. It's just a different kind of wiring, one that's actually well suited to storytelling, emotional perception, the kind of listening that makes people feel truly heard. It's just poorly suited to the narrow, mechanical job of holding on to what someone is called while under social pressure. None of this means there's no room to improve, though. Saying someone's name back right after they introduce themselves, tying it to a face you already know, or a vivid image. These tricks genuinely work, because they force your brain to manually build the connection it wouldn't make on its own. You're essentially hand-constructing a link between Kevin and something that already has real estate in your memory. But the shame spiral, that quiet belief that forgetting names makes you careless or distant or someone who doesn't really notice other people, that part is simply false. And it deserves to be said outright, because plenty of people carry that belief without ever questioning where it came from. You're not inattentive. You're not dismissive. You're someone whose brain just allocates its attention differently, gets occasionally hijacked by its own internal noise, and sometimes drops the single most arbitrary detail about a person, the random sound their parents picked out before that person had done anything memorable at all. The name was never the important part. What you actually remember about people, the real substance, the texture of who they are, that's still intact. It was never going anywhere. If you want to dig further into ideas like these, I've put together a list of books covering psychology, human behavior, and independent thinking. You'll find the full list linked in the description and pinned comment. And if this kind of content is useful to you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss what's next.